So the 10th century mathematician, astronomer, and physicist of the golden era of Islam, who lived in Iraq, his name was Hassan ibn al-Haytham. He is called by Western scholars the father of modern optics, meaning his scientific theories gave the groundwork for the camera and the microscope. His analysis and scientific equations about lenses and how to manipulate lenses is where all that comes from. He says in his book, as a scientist in the Muslim world, I constantly sought knowledge and truth. It became firmly my belief that for gaining access to the warmth and closeness of God, there is no better way than searching for truth and knowledge. He was seeing it as a Muslim, that being a Muslim, a believer, a person of faith in the creator of everything, of the one who orders and maintains everything according to his systems, that I'm getting closer to him by becoming a scientist. The modern world is saying the exact opposite. The more I study science, the more I rely on my brain, the less I feel a connection to God, because they're wanting their brain to be God. Now here's the interesting thing about Ibn al-Haytham. Ibn al-Haytham, his writings in the 10th century, in the Enlightenment in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, you see his works are cited in Europe's Enlightenment by Isaac Newton, Johannes Kepler, and Galileo. These three guys are building what they do on his writings by their own writings. You see what I'm saying? But how many of us were taught that? Some might say, oh, because we're in America. I'm asking you, those that were born in a Muslim country, how many of you were taught that? And why not? Because the people who are in control do not want a spiritual revolution of an intellectual form, because that's not what their leadership is built on. And they have no basis for that. They have no background in that. They don't want that. They want your whole focus to be on spinning around in dhikr circles and talking about, all of the rules and ahkam of wudu and all of this, and nitpicking over meats and things and all of these type of things. They want to make a very simplistic, ritualistic, superficial religiosity, as they have done with other peoples before us. So we have to revive. British imperial soldier and ethnographer. He studied the cultures of people. His name was Major Arthur Leonard. He wrote a book in the 1800s called Islam, Her Moral and Spiritual Value. Now he is a major in the British Imperial Army who is colonizing the Muslim world. He's looking at them as they currently are, and he's like, what happened to y'all? I read in all of these books. So he wrote a book called Islam, Her Moral and Spiritual Value. And he never became Muslim. But he writes, never to this day has Europe acknowledged in any sort of honest manner the great and everlasting debt she owes to Islamic culture and civilization. Her people were sunk in feudalism and ignorance. Muslim civilization reached a standard of social and scientific splendor that kept the dwindling members of European society from utter depravity. Meaning what? He is saying that the Islamic civilization, the caliphate, the theocratic rule saved Europe from utter abysmal destruction and loss, because they took all of that and they built upon it themselves. This is a non-Muslim person studying our history and appreciating it. Why do we not study our history and appreciate it? It's a question we have to ask ourselves. I'll give you one more example here. In the Journal of Economic History, which is written by Western academics, they write, in the aftermath of the population decline of the Justinian plague in the 8th century, there was a massive death, worse than COVID by tenfold. During the early centuries of Islam, wages and incomes in Iraq and Egypt rose well above those of previous Roman and Byzantium Egypt and the centuries preceding the plague. This environment of high wages and high incomes contributed to, and in turn was supported by, the productivity increases associated with the golden age of Islam. As population levels began to recover, first in Iraq and then in Egypt, wages and income went down slightly. However, because of the period of intensive growth In the golden era of Islam, productivity, incomes, and standards of living remain significantly above poverty for centuries. So in the Western historical analysis of the economic reality of Southwest Asia, North Africa, and Europe, they are attributing economic stability for the entire known world to the golden era of Islam. And that's something that we have to revive in ourselves. Our kids must go to school knowing these things so that they can interject. They have to go to a college class and see things that make it look like Galileo himself is just the reason why we have modern science. Like, no. Teacher, are we familiar with Ibn al-Haytham? I believe you call him al-Hazm, which is what they call him in their books. And see if that teacher knows. And when that teacher doesn't know, because by the way, I've done this. I've actually sent messages to professors of colleges who are teaching Islamophobic or Islam canceling of history. And I explain to them things that should be there, and they're absolutely ignorant of it. They have no idea. These are the professors. It's institutionalized Islamophobia. They don't want our history. They want to erase our history. As George Orwell said, if people don't believe they have something great that their values have amounted to before, then they'll just believe whatever you tell them in their current state. So it's crucial for us to follow the guidance of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was just a simple poor shepherd, basically an indentured servant, who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, listened to him, watched something miraculous, and became his follower and lived in his house. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud became one of the great scholars of human history. He says, "Ughdu mu'alliman aw muta'alliman, wa la taghdu bayna dhalika sabila." Be a teacher or a learner, and don't waste your time and life with anything else. Then he says, once you know, then you must act accordingly, meaning your knowledge has no value unless you act upon it. Unfortunately, we do have some Muslims who know a lot about a lot of things, but what are they doing to promote that? What are they doing to apply that? Or are they too fearful that knowing and applying that might ruffle the feathers and create problems for their material interests against their spiritual truth and eternity that they're facing? Ya Allah, we ask you to revive in us the beauty and the light of the revelation and the knowledge therein that you sent to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us a people worthy of your contentment, a people of enlightenment of the truth of revelation as it applies to the knowledge of the world. Ya Allah, bring our hearts together as believers, make us a people of studious academia who study and learn things and deal with reality according to your guidance and the values revealed in Quran. Ya Allah, make us a people who bring good to the world in so many forms, ways, and shapes and sizes because of the various knowledges we have mastered. Make us specialized in this world. Make us recognized for knowledge and wisdom so that we may repair the world from all of its corruptions as people have turned away from you. Ya Allah, help us to realize the seriousness of this responsibility that we carry in saying La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, so that is not simply an affiliation but an active way of living. Ya Allah, we ask you to make us worthy of your forgiveness. Have mercy on us. Have mercy upon all of those believers who died testifying in your oneness and the finality of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all of those who followed all of the prophets in history until the day of judgment. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi sahbihi ajma'in.